you all for joining us here in our breakout session, developing the next generation of park stewards. Just a quick reminder, only speakers are going to be on screen for this session, so there's no need to share your audio and video. You'll have a chance to do that and interact in the action groups, which will be happening after the break at 10:45. So feel free to still use the chat for discussion and questions. We'll also have time for a Q&A later in the session. So Barbara and Martha, you guys can actually click the leave button in the top right-hand portion of your screen. And then that way, when I start to share some of the photo slides that were put together by Jen and Mike, it'll be larger for the other participants. So how to engage younger people in an ongoing service to the park is a topic that we know many Friends of the Park groups grapple with. During this panel, we'll hear some of the creative ways our partners that have joined us today have reached out to and worked with young people of all ages. I'm your moderator, Kayla Altland. You just saw me on stage if you were there for that portion, and I'm a program manager at Park Pride. I'm joined here by two other panelists, Jennifer Guynn from Pebble Tossers and Mike Fillon with the Friends of Tucker Park's Orchard Guild. In my role at Park Pride, I support Friends of the Park groups in meeting their goals and have an extensive background prior to my work here in youth development. So our two speakers today will have some great insights on what has worked for them. So let's just jump right in.
Good morning. I'm not sure if Mike is still here or not.
Yes, he said that he got kicked off because there were too many people on the screen. So he will be able to get back in. But I will let you introduce yourself. Just give me a moment while I pull up your slides.
Okay. All right, he's back.
Okay. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jennifer Guynn, and I usually, if I'm going to introduce myself, I say that because when I say Jen Guynn, it just kind of runs together. So I am the director, the executive director and founder of Pebble Tossers, and our tagline is "Start a Ripple of Giving." And we started 12 years ago as a way to get youth and families engaged in age-appropriate service. We serve kids we've had little league kids, like in the Baby Bjorns, kind of out serving and carrying things, but kind of like 4 through 24, and then the parents that come with them. And we started with 12 cause areas, and the environment is one of our cause areas. It ranges from the arts and animals to elderly to homelessness, hunger issues, veterans. We kind of got the gamut. And so we've been we adopted a section of the Atlanta Beltline, I think maybe 7 years ago. And so we have been working with Park Pride and Trees Atlanta and the Beltline for our section, it's called NE9, and it's right behind the Park Tavern. It abuts Piedmont Park, and it's been a great place for us.
Okay. All right.
I didn't know if we want to take turns, as Mike's gonna jump on, if you want me to keep going.
Mike, are you able to get back on screen? I'm not sure.
I can kind of continue a little bit more about just about Pebble Tossers if you want to.
Yep, that's
okay.
Fine.
So we are, if you want to, if anybody's out there is interested in getting youth engaged in service, you can, go to our website. We've got projects every week, and during this whole pandemic, we have kind of shifted to some virtual projects, online projects, and we are still doing some larger, well, I say larger, but just like larger impact projects that are outdoors. And the efforts that we're doing at the Beltline are one of those projects. We've got actually a project going on today at a park in Sandy Springs, and our next one at the Beltline will be November 21st. And you can see in this picture right here that there's a bunch of daffodils, and we're working with a group called the Daffodil Project. And right now we've got over 3,500 daffodils planted along that section. And then November 21st, we'll be planting another 500 more. daffodils as well. There's Mike. Great. So you guys can check out our website. We love to work with other adopter groups or friends of the park groups. If you guys need help with with a project or something, kind of creative, just, go to our website and reach out to us. We'd love to talk with you.
Thank you so much, Jen. And Mike, if you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Sure. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I wrote Popular 5 years for the American Cancer Society. But as a hobby, I've always loved planting fruit trees. And so I started planting about 7 years ago, and we started the Tucker Orchard Guild. And we planted over 300, many of the parks in the Tucker area and other surrounding towns, including an heirloom apple orchard at Henderson Park, where some of the trees date back to Thomas Jefferson. When I became a master gardener, no one was interested in running the Dunwoody Community Garden orchard part because it needed to be organic, and everyone said you can't raise fruit trees organically. And so I was the one I forgot to step backwards, and so they asked me to do it. And after 3 years, I feel we did very, very well there. I applied with UGA Extension to designate Kelly Coker Park in Tucker as a master gardener site. And so we also have a heirloom apple orchard there, as well as the pollinator garden, which is built on organic principles, and the peach pit, which is an experimental organic peach orchard that is on the site of the former Tucker Women's Club. And that's basically it. We're very close to Tucker High School, where we have a great relationship with the STEM Beta Club, National Honor Society, and the Earth Tomorrow Club. So we have students that are able to do the Kelly Coker Park and give us some help, which I'll explore as we go along.
Thank you so much to both of you for being here this morning. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll go into the panel part of the discussion. And my first question that I have for both of you is, why is it important to engage the next generation of park stewards?
You want to go first, Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. At Pebble Tossers, we kind of have the philosophy that if you start kids out at an early age, then they will kind of, grow and kind of, it becomes part of their DNA, that volunteering and giving back is part of their DNA. And, kids all have such a variety of interests that, that they want to spend their time, and it's always different. But I think if you get kids outside, and it's in a way that they're not on their screens, they're not on their phones, they can run around and they can't really mess up with that much stuff. I've had people at some of our projects, they're trying to focus their kids and herd their kids and like, you've got to do this. And I'm like, it's okay. Let them dig in the dirt and let them find the worms, and let's talk about that. And I think it's helpful for them to have that period of exploration and discovery that's unencumbered. Just run and breathe in the air, go sit under a tree, get creative with the trash that you find. Or we had these one little girls, they came up with these sticks, and I was like, these are our service sticks. And they're like, we use these to lift up the branches of the trees so we can get the trash easier. I mean, you know what? Nobody told them to do that or get creative like that. Just being outside and being in the environment, it kind of happened. So I think if you give kids the opportunities when they're younger to have that free space, and to have it, and they grow and develop an appreciation for that, and then they want to preserve that and take care of it.
To add to
Well, like I said, I agree with everything Jennifer just said, because that's our approach. Dealing with exclusively, there are two really like with the youngsters. They say planting a fruit tree is an optimistic act of let me start over. Planting a fruit tree is an act of, and the second one is the true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. So planting a fruit tree demonstrates faith in the future, but those of us older, we hear my answer to your first question. That's our.
Thank you both so much for sharing. So as a follow-up to that, what are some successful strategies? And both of you kind of touched on this, but what are some successful strategies that you've used to engage young people?
You want to go first, Jennifer?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. So we try and, as an adopter of the Beltline, our main task is to, beautify this section, to keep it clean. And but picking up trash for an hour or 2 hours can get rather mundane and boring. And so we try and do things that kind of make it fun and interesting. Like we'll have a most random find contest of, things that you can find on the Beltline. But we also, do fun projects, and like we'll take and make, pine cone bird feeder. We no longer use peanut butter. We just always use the shortening, but we tell the kids, like, why this is an area that, birds need food, and we explain the whole urban wildlife habitat, because we have our section is designated as an urban wildlife habitat, and we're trying to do fun things that kind of engage them and keep them moving, as opposed to just one thing the whole time, because then you kind of, even as adults, sometimes you lose interest in raking leaves or something. But we try and make sure that they understand that it's more than just keeping this section nice just because it's a good thing to do. So many times this is such a highly trafficked section of the Beltline that people who are just walking or riding their bikes will say thank you to our volunteers, and you just see the kids, like their chests just puff up, and they're like, oh, I'm doing something that matters. It's always a lot of fun. So we try and keep it moving too for younger volunteers.
I think that's good advice for anyone who's working with their volunteers, as you said, for kids and adults of all ages as well. So it looks like
and snacks.
Snacks, yes. Food is definitely a really great motivator to get people out to your event, as well as to keep them energized throughout the day. So it looks like we might have lost Mike on camera. While he's trying to get back on, I did have a specific question for you. So you've kind of talked about different projects that you guys have done with Pebble Tossers, and how you've been hosting these volunteer projects with children all over Atlanta. What have been some of your most successful projects in parks?
We've had some really fun things that we've done. We've done a pollinator garden, and we've done whole environmental education lesson around that. We've got handouts and things, and just talking about why bees are important, and why certain native flowers are important to bring the bees there, and then the results of why that's important, for our, for the community. And so that's been a fun one. And just also talking about just the different flowers that attract, the bees and the different butterflies and things like, and birds. And then just the whole process about that plants can provide beauty for us to look at, but also they can help retain the soil as erosion control measures. They can be food or shelter for different animals. So just kind of going into all that. We've done our daffodil project, which is really an awesome project. And we work with another organization called the Daffodil Project. That's the name of them. And their goal is to plant 1.5 million daffodil bulbs in remembrance of the 1.5 million children killed in the Holocaust. So it's a powerful statement too, because we bring in people to talk about that. And each of our projects, we have a little bit of an education session at the beginning. We tell people about the history of the Beltline and why it's important to the city of Atlanta. And then we also just talk about why it's important to be an environmental steward and to take care of the space that we have, not just for our own use, but for, like, as you were just, as Mike was just saying, for our kids' use and their kids' use, and just to, help that. So those have been some, and we have an urban wildlife habitat there also. And it's just, letting kids know that they're part of something bigger than just their own yard or their own neighborhood. And every time they walk around, these parks, they can go and say, like, I made sure that area was clean, or, I planted those bulbs, and they can get their own sense of park pride and take that and carry that out and share that with their friends.
Awesome. That sense of ownership is definitely really important for engaging youth as well as the community. So, Mike, did you want to share some successful strategies that you've had in engaging young people? Are you able to hear us, Mike? Are you still there? It looks like we have lost your video. There we go. Do you want to share some successful strategies for working with youth that you have used in your work, Mike? It looks like there might be a little bit of a delay. Yes.
Yes.
Them as cheap labor. No one likes to weed. I mean, their parents are the future. We one environmental lawyer um, and copies and have distributed them. We had severe. We gave them. One was to pitch a story to the second was to approach the man and they got a standing ovation at. And on the orchard to the new interns I have now. So very excited about continuation. That's the project that Jennifer.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear that there's projects like that that can, be used throughout the region. And I think that, Mike, your internet might be having a little bit of troubles. We were hearing only every third word roughly. So just to be aware of that moving forward. But I do have a question for, what was that? So my question for you, Mike, is, are you able to press on the bottom of your screen the camera and maybe just turn the camera off and use the audio? That might help with some of the bandwidth issues. So try talking now.
Okay, I just shut it off the camera.
All right, well, let's try this. So how have you been able to recruit your high school students for your internships?
As I mentioned, we're very fortunate to have Tucker High School right down the road within walking distance. And probably 7 years ago, a relationship started with the STEM students with Kelly Coker Park, which continues to this day. The Beta Club then was plugged in, the National Honor Society, and the Earth Tomorrow Club has been developed at Tucker High School in the last 3 years. And they are the ones that approached me about the Tucker Tomorrow with the encouragement of the STEM teacher. And so for us, it's been very, very fortunate. And so we now have 5 seniors. And so we've asked them to recruit juniors and sophomores for the future, which they're doing now. So we have a nice, fortunately, steady supply of people that will help us.
Thank you so much. And your audio is much better now. I hope that is the same for everyone else. So it sounds like developing partnerships with the teachers is also, a good strategy as well. So before we go into the Q&A, I see that we've already had a lot of great questions in the chat. This one is for both of you and kind of plays off of what Mike was just talking about, is what do you see are some of the benefits of partnerships when working with young people?
You want to go first, Jennifer?
Mike, I'm going to let you go. I'm typing an answer to some of this question. You can go ahead, Mike.
Okay. What are the benefits? Is that what the question was? What are the benefits? Well, I think the
benefits of partnerships. So with other,
right. Well, I think and I by the way, we have to be approved as a Master Gardeners. We have to be approved by 4-H to work with youngsters, which I think is a plus. But one thing that I mentioned to the interns is we have a unique relationship with us because we're not judging you. We're not giving you grades like your teachers. And we don't love you like your parents. So we have a unique role to play in that we can be very, very objective and encouraging without an agenda. I think that's a big, big advantage. And so I was approached with this latest group person who told her friends, and then a second came on board, then a third. Then they worked with us for a couple of days mulching, which is, it's not weeding, but it's still hard work. And before you know it, we were up to 5. And so it's very encouraging to see that they thank us when they're done with it. At the end of the day, they thank us for letting them do it. So I think we're building a building on long-term relationships that's already existed that will continue into the future, long after I'm gone. So. That answer your question?
Thank you. And Jen, did you have a response? Yes.
Can I add one thing to that? The interns that we've had,
Of course.
relationship continues. Our first intern that was with us just graduated from college up in Vermont. And a couple of weeks ago, she sent me a text saying, "I've been planting some blueberries, made me think of you." So that was nice. And the two interns we had to cover of Up Close and Personal, one is at Georgia Tech and one is at UGA. The one at Georgia Tech is applying for fruit trees at Georgia Tech, just as he did at Tucker High School. And the one at UGA, learning remotely right now, she plans to do the same thing at UGA. So, and I'm in touch with both of them all the time. So the relationship continues, and I'd like to feel that I'll be part of their growth throughout their lives.
That's so awesome to hear, that extended relationship that you've been able to build with them. And Jen, did you want to answer how partnerships have been beneficial for your work with Pebble Tosser?
Yeah, I love that, Mike. It's funny, like so I've got 3 kids, 2 are in college and 1 is out. And my one daughter on Saturday morning, sometimes she'll call and she's like, "It's a Beltline day." She goes, "I need to be cleaning the park." And so she's in South Carolina at school, and she'll just get friends to go and clean up a random park, because we started doing that, when she was a young age. And she's like, "It's a beautiful morning, I need to be doing something outside," So I to continue your thought with that, I love that kids, again, back to that very first question of like developing the environmental stewards and stewards of parks. Again, you just kind of get them into the habit of doing that, which I love. And I mean, for us, Pebble Tossers, we work with 70 different organizations all around, Greater Atlanta, and the partnerships are very key for us. And I think that we've developed great relationships with a lot of park groups and even just some cities, the Parks and Recs departments. And, so they'll call us if they've got like an interesting thing that they want done that maybe they don't necessarily have the bandwidth to do, or the volunteer manpower. They'll give us a call and say, "Hey, we're thinking about this. What do you think?" We worked with another organization. We painted picnic tables, and just like fun, creative picnic tables. And again, I knew there's a one of our past volunteers who volunteered with us when he was in high school. He's at UGA, he's a senior, I think, and he is an artist. And so we actually got him to do a kind of a paint by numbers of these picnic tables. And then we had volunteers come in and paint the picnic tables, and they put them around. I mean, that was just like a really cool full circle of getting someone who, used to volunteer with us, probably because they had to do service hours for school. And then, we brought him back in. And so he brought his whole family. It was really cute. It was just a very fun thing. But for us, partnerships and collaborations is kind of what it's all about. I mean, we want to provide opportunities for our kids and our families. And, there's only so much that one organization can do and so much reach that one organization can make. But when we're all working together, that's got a much bigger reach. Our tagline is "Start a Ripple of Giving." And so we try and do that, with our volunteers and also with our community partners as well.
Thank you so much for that response. So I do see that some people have been putting questions in the chat, and it looks like we've been answering those in the chat. If you have other questions that you'd like to bring to the panelists, you can put that in the chat for us. But it looks like one of the questions that Martha had asked, and this might have been something you mentioned, Mike, but maybe when you were cutting in and out, is what type of work do the high school students do? So if you just wanted to cover that again, I think that everybody would be grateful to hear more about.
As I said, we don't want them to just be, labor, although they do work very, very hard. So what we do is we'll have them mulch the fruit trees, and we'll teach them how to mulch the fruit trees, and more importantly, why we mulch the peach trees, or any trees for that matter, because they don't know. I mean, I've never liked being told to do something and not know why I'm doing it. Explain to them mulch, for example, attracts beneficial insects and microbes and keeps the roots a little bit cooler. It maintains moisture. That's why we do it. And what's interesting is we had 3 projects in the last month or so. We taught them the first time, and second and third orchards that they worked, we didn't even have to tell them how to do it. They just did it. We told them what we wanted to do, and they did it. So mulching is very, very important. We're going to be teaching them about pruning, which is very, very important. We taught them last week planting, how to take a simple thing like take a plant out of a pot without breaking it. And also we teach them about mycelium, which is a beneficial fungal networks. So the education as they work is as important. And so they know that we're giving, in other words, we're giving them goals, and they appreciate that. So hope that answered the question.
Of course, thank you. So it looks like we have a question in the chat for Jen. Can you explain the process of contracting the artist for painting the tables? What was the artistic direction? Are you interested in further art projects?
Yes, we are, and we've been talking with you guys about that. We would love to. I mean, Pebble Tossers would absolutely love to do more projects, art projects, collaboratively. So the process of contracting the artist, I knew him and I called him. So when I asked, you know, and the organization that we partnered with, they actually did have some money to be able to pay the artist too. You know, but we've got access to several thousand kids that we work with. And so perhaps we could, you know, work with a budding art student, and we give them the opportunity to, you know, put their work out there. How do we find funding for the artists? Well, Pebble Tossers wasn't actually the entity that paid that the artist, but they the other organization, they're shoot, what's the name of it? I mean, it's that they're doing the Hub 404 Park, Buckhead. It's like, oh, shoot, it's the Buckhead thing. Thank you. Sorry, Livable Buckhead. So, so they got money from their members, like all the big, huge office buildings. So they have a bigger budget to do kind of stuff like that. And how Pebble Tossers is funded, we are also a membership-driven organization, and we've got a big, robust database and a volunteer management portal. So families can join of up to 8 people for $100 a year, and individuals can join for $35 a year. Gives you access to join as many projects as you want throughout the year. We've got an online portal so you can record your service hours and keep it all in one spot. And then we do a lot of other just workshops and special things like for members only, and have other resources as well. And grants and individuals, the individual donations make up the bulk of our funding.
Great, thank you. And Mike, are your interns paid, or are they earning credit through? Of course.
Yeah, well, you know, I know what question you're asking, so I'll just continue my answer. We also have something called Community Art of Tucker that paints. In fact, Valerie Nichols in a pollinator garden using hugelkultur, she did the mural in front of the Tucker Recreation Center. And she also did, Community Art of Tucker also did picnic tables in Tucker Rec also. So yeah, that's a great great initiative to plug students in. And you were asking me, what was the question you were actually asking me, Kayla?
Specifically, if the interns were paid, and then others, you know, if they are, others might be interested in how that funding is.
Unfortunately, we don't have funding for that. We've given them some books and all that, but it's the understanding right from the beginning is that just like us, not being paid, we cannot pay them. But we do write lots of letters of recommendation and steer them in, to other benefits. So wish we could pay them, but we simply can't. For example, for their Master Gardener talk. And in fact, the fee that they were offered, actually the Master Gardener organization doubled the fee because they like what they had to say. So yeah, that's it.
That's great. And I'm glad to hear that you're using, providing them with opportunities to use this for professional development by speaking for other organizations and letters of recommendation of those things. And so we have about 2 minutes left. If there's any last questions that you have for our panelists, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, the last question that I have, if we don't have any others from the participants, is what do you guys think, are ways that we can ensure that young people's voices in decisions about parks and green space are highlighted or, brought, because a lot of us are working within various structures of whether it's the government partners, and just kind of, what are your thoughts in terms of making sure that young people's voices are part of the decision-making process for parks and green space?
I'll step in on that one. I think just asking them the question and giving them a voice. I mean, literally getting in a group and asking what they think. And I'm always amazed at the responses that we get from kids when we really just stop and close our own mouths and listen to them, because they've got kind of a different perspective. They aren't maybe as jaded with the can and can't do quality of like, so you think about it? Well, sure, I can do it. Let's do it. And I think just being open to whatever they suggest, and then let's try and figure it out. A lot of times, it's a safe space for volunteering. You can't really mess it up. I mean, I guess you can, but like, we're not really going to let you get to that point. So I think just being open to other opinions and other ideas, and asking the question, what do you guys think? And let it be open, and then listening.
Did you have anything to add to that, Mike, about bringing their voices to the table?
Absolutely. We encourage them to ask questions, and we ask them questions. But their motivation for the future, like I said previously, it's very encouraging. For example, one of the interns had worked at the polls during the election season with her mom. And so we gave her a shout out for doing that without getting political. Just that community involvement is very, very important. Another wants to major in political science and actually run for office. So we encourage that, and all their peers know this and hear this. And writers, we all, the two that want to become writers, I encourage them not only to develop their writing skills, but their public speaking skills. Not using me as an example, but that it's important to be well-rounded, and your communication skills are very, very important. So basically, we're encouraging their growth and their future.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing your experiences and working with youth. And I hope that those of you who are here are inspired to continue engaging that next generation, not only for our communities, but for the health of our ecosystems and parks. And